Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our next lesson in our series based on the Christmas Carol and a little book titled A Christmas Carol and Little Lessons from the Christmas Carol by Bob Welch. Now, we're going to do a quick review before we move on to the next lesson. And the next lesson will be Your Life Matters More Than Your Death. But let's take a quick review because some people have joined us, and I want to make sure that we are up to speed. If you remember correctly, we met Ebenezer Scrooge at the funeral of his lifelong partner. His lifelong partner died on Christmas Eve, named Jacob Marley. Scrooge was as cold there as he had ever been, and his personality came out. You see that Scrooge was a man that was after one thing, and one thing only. That was to be controlled. And he did not like anything that was beyond his control. He had been hurt in the past, and that hurt had designed him into being a oyster, is what Charles Dickens used, as cold as an oyster, closed off from everyone and everything around him, giving nothing to his nephew, giving nothing to the charities, that people that came in to see him. And most of all, the one that took the abuse from him the most was his clerk, Bob Cratchit. Well, if you remember, Bob Cratchit was asking for the Christmas day off, and it was considered an insult. And give you an example of his personality, he considers that giving Bob Cratchit Christmas day off was like somebody picking his pocket for this on December 25th every year. And he goes home, and while he's there, the ghost of his former partner, Jacob Marley, shows up. Jacob Marley is a ghost feathered by chains that he tells Scrooge he himself forged while he was alive. Every time he failed to interact or be the person that he was supposed to with other people to bring a little happiness, he was another link in his chain. And in fact is that Jacob has been trying and is now successfully there to warn Ebenezer Scrooge that his chain is much longer than his, because he's labored on it 7 years more than he has because of his death. Now, Ebenezer Scrooge originally rejects this offer of the recovery, if you will. Jacob Marley tells him that for him to be saved from his fate, he needs to be visited by 3 spirits. These 3 spirits would come to him and help him avoid Jacob's fate. Well, the first ghost that does come The ghost of Christmas Past takes Jacob Marley's partner, Ebenezer Scrooge, on a journey back to the past, back to when he was in school and left behind at Christmas time. He was taken back to his apprentice days when he was the apprentice of a man named Mr. Fezziwig, and the joy that he had with his girl that he fell in love with, which was named Belle. But in fact is that these were the things that happened to haunt him later on, as each one of them became painful. See, Ebenezer Scrooge was so afraid that he became afraid of everything, and especially the only security that he trusted in was money. And the fact is that we have to remember when we're dealing with people, too often we fail to see that the person in front of us has been shaped by events and choices we don't know anything about. I use the illustration all the time of people being like a book and a story that I'm coming in, if they're 36, on chapter 36 of their life, and without having them share what happened in the first 36 chapters, I have to work from where they are, not from what I think they should be. Well, the fact is the ghost of Christmas Present causes problems, is the next ghost, and he causes even more problems for him. The ghost of Christmas Present is there to lead him through the Christmas of his current day. He takes him places that he has stopped seeing and helps Ebenezer Scrooge start to remember what it's like to be around and to care. And it starts really with his visit to his clerk's house At the house, he witnesses the Christmas dinner that's for this family a time of joy. And the fact is that Ebenezer Scrooge gets a chance to meet a main character in his life to be at least, and his name is Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim is ill, and Ebenezer Scrooge asks, is there no chance that this boy will be spared? And the ghost of Christmas Present reminds him, or repeats his words back to him that he spoke back in his office. The fact is are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? If they are willing to die, then they should die and get rid of the excess population. And the fact is that Ebenezer Scrooge is now being haunted by his own words through the ghost of Christmas Present. Christmas Present's time on Earth, of course, is short. It's only 24 hours, and at midnight, as it approaches, Ebenezer Scrooge notices two characters underneath the robe of Christmas Present. The characters are introduced as Ignorance and Want. And the ghost of Christmas Present tells Scrooge that these are the children of man. And the fact is that if the ignorance is not addressed, that doom is shadowing him in the future. And Ebenezer Scrooge again is the one that says, are there no charities? Are there no people to help? And again, the ghost of Christmas Present reminds him of his words. And the fact is that these are some of the change points in the life of Ebenezer Scrooge. Now, Ebenezer Scrooge is now abandoned by the ghost of Christmas Present and runs into his next ghost, which is the most scary of them, and is the ghost of Christmas Future. The ghost of Christmas Future in the book doesn't even have a face. In the movie, this is what he looks like. And he begins to run him through the events that would take place in his passing. Now, the ghost of Christmas Future is what we'll be exploring for the next few days. And it is a very dark section of the book. But I'm going to ask you not to give up and just to remember what we've been studying. And the fact is that the transformation of Ebenezer Scrooge comes because he's willing to give up what he has been holding on to all this time, his security and money, and grow and transform into something much bigger and much better. And I thank you for listening.